Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by. Happy Fibro Friday. I hope your fibro has been completely invisible this week. And if not, I hope that you have been able to rest and care for yourself as needed with no problems. I hope that has been your week, okay? So today, before I get into it, not medical advice, all disclaimers below. Let's talk about neuroinflammation today. I am someone who knew it existed, but not in the context in which I'm learning about it. So I am still very much learning. I'm still putting some pieces together in my mind with this. I didn't make any notes for today. I didn't have a lot of practice thinking this through. So if it comes out a little crazy, if I misstate or misquote or something is just plain long incorrect, please have a little grace with me. Feel free to correct it in the comments, but have a little grace with me. I am dealing with a little fibro frog and it's Friday. So grace is what we do, right? We've been through the week. We deserve the grace. Okay, let's talk about this neuroinflammation thing. I knew it existed as a concept very vaguely, but I never had the word for it. Whenever we talk about inflammation, there are a couple things that come up. If you suffer from chronic illness that is not connected to an autoimmune condition, then inflammation is something that is barely mentioned by your doctors and specialists, okay? I have been to many doctor's appointments, and inflammation is never a concern because I do not have an autoimmune condition. Fibromyalgia is not autoimmune, okay? If I did have an autoimmune condition, something that could only be managed well by rheumatology methods, I would probably hear more about inflammation. Except there's one problem. Neuroinflammation is generally not as easily detected from what I've read as your broad inflammation that, might come up on an ANA test and let someone know that you have an autoimmune condition, right? So neuroinflammation is just what it sounds like, inflammation within the nervous system. One of the best ways to determine neuroinflammation is an MRI. What I realized as I was going through the scholarly journal articles, all of the writing about it, what I realized is I probably have a good deal of neuroinflammation. And I'd imagine pretty much everyone with fibromyalgia also has a good deal of it. And it only makes sense because what we are learning about fibromyalgia is that it was never a muscle issue, it was always a nervous system issue. Your nervous system is overreacting to stimuli, it's misreading things, it's misfiring. That sounds like an agitated condition, and certainly it sounds like a condition that could be aggravated by inflammation. So while I'm researching, and I will put all of the great articles that I've read below, and I've read like 5 or 6 of them. I know you're thinking that's not a lot. Trust me, it's a lot of it's a lot of scientific reading to do in your spare time. But I wanted to make sure I had a good handle on this, as good a handle as I could get as someone without any kind of medical training. What I'm learning though is that neuroinflammation is grossly underdiagnosed if you're not having a lot of um, psychiatric or psychological or mental issues. Okay. So think Alzheimer's and dementia. It has to be pretty extreme for most of these methods to be recommended. Okay. That being said, I would guess that there are many of us who have varying degrees of neuroinflammation, just like many of us have varying degrees of inflammation throughout the body. And it goes unaddressed and it may sometimes get confused with other conditions or symptoms or whatever. So, in my opinion, 100% my inexperience, just random musing, if you can reduce inflammation generally, and if you could reduce neuroinflammation specifically, you could, in theory, reduce the severity of many of your chronic illness symptoms, in my opinion. Now, I looked for anti inflammatory foods, be it fruits, vegetables, herbs, didn't matter, that targeted neuroinflammation, and I couldn't find anything. I could find things specifically for broad inflammation, and you can look those up too. Those are not surprising. You've seen them or heard of them all as you've been on your pain relief journey, I'm sure. But I looked up things specific to neuroinflammation, and I couldn't find any. That being said, I am really glad I've started doing this research. I will continue to dive into this research. I will continue to look through sources. I will continue to see what I can learn about it because I know I have spinal stenosis. That's literally just a narrowing in the spine. Mine is in my neck, which is why I constantly have neck pain. There's no way that the nerves in my neck and shoulders are not constantly inflamed just from the narrowing. I suspect that neuroinflammation can be a bit of a mechanical, I don't want to say defect, but a side effect of certain um, structural flaws, like me, narrowing in the neck, or many other people. That's nothing surprising. I also suspect, and this is not just a guess, this was also mentioned in some of the research, that there are environmental stressors that can agitate it. And so, my best guess is if you want to target neuroinflammation, if you're not sure if you have it, there's nothing wrong in just being proactive with inflammation reduction in general. Go ahead and get onto a dietary plan or an eating approach that allows you to incorporate more anti inflammatory foods and practices into your routine so that you can see if reducing inflammation throughout, which would, inevitably also probably help your nervous system. See if that gives you some relief. Read some of the studies and don't feel like you have to read them with the perspective of creating 100% a wellness plan from scratch. Read through them with the thought of, what could I apply from this? Because that's all I did. I read it and said, what does this mean for me specifically? And how does this play into my condition? Because certainly if you are experiencing nerve pain, it's very difficult to think that inflammation is not at least a part of the pain. And just because you don't have a very advanced neuroinflamed condition resulting in, loss of memory, brain fog, basically Alzheimer's, dementia, just because you don't have all of those things going on does not mean you aren't affected on some level. So do your research. Consider taking the research to your doctor after you read it. I will, like I said, come back to this topic in the future. Please try to remind me if you want more information about it in the future because I will be reading, but I don't want to get distracted along the way. But I will be reading more articles about this to figure out more specifics, just trying to put together a solution that can give you some relief and maybe 100% relief depending on the severity of your condition. I know for me, being more proactive about being as um, minimally inflamed as possible has been good. It hasn't been perfect for sure. The body does what it does. But if you can get ahead of some of it, it's always nice. So that's it. Please check out the articles. Please let me know what you think. Please let me know what you've seen. I would love to hear it. I'd love to research more, and I will be researching on my own, but I'd love to research anything you all have to say. And yeah, that's it for Fibro Friday. Do something anti inflammatory and, take care of yourselves this weekend. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye bye.